good, Will?
I'm good.
You good?
Let's get it. Let's knock it out.
This is the, fourth episode now?
Episode 4.
All right.
After a little hiatus.
Yeah, because one of us went to the beach. It wasn't me.
It was me.
It was you. How's the beach?
It was good.
Good.
Rained half the time.
All right, people don't care that much.
Okay, cool.
All right. So, I don't know if you noticed that a couple days ago, coaches poll came out for football.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you looked at that yet?
I glanced at it.
You glanced at it. You haven't looked at it.
Studied. Well, I looked at it.
You did? Oh,
Yeah, I did.
You
Yeah, I
actually did something. Okay.
I actually did. Didn't study it as much, but
Well, I mean, it's nothing much to study.
Yeah.
All right, so, first thoughts on that. What are you thinking?
I think the top 7 or 8 could be moved around a little bit. Maybe not a lot. I don't think Ohio State should be at number 2.
I don't think Ohio State should ever be at number 2 or 1.
Yeah. I don't. Alabama number 1, of course.
A little biased there.
I mean, yeah, of course.
Me too. It's okay.
But I think Florida State and USC have to be higher than they are. 3 or 4, 2 and 3.
Yeah, it can't be much higher.
Clemson needs to be a little bit higher. You need to put Oklahoma, maybe not top 5, but maybe a spot
Right.
or so. But other than that, I think that just a couple of minor here's and there's.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that it wasn't. It's not too bad. But again, it's a coach's poll, so it doesn't have a ton of meaning to it.
Right.
So,
Just gives you a little indicator.
Yeah.
I guess since that just recently came out, we might as well just make this episode just our college football based. I mean, what is it?
It's fine with me.
3 weeks now?
Yeah, it's not very far.
20 days? Yeah,
20
less
days.
than 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we'll just we'll cover that for right now.
Works for me.
So you talked about the top 7 or 8. You said?
Top 7 or 8.
And then I mean, you get down the list. Anything sticking out to you? I mean, a lot of familiar names, really.
Miami. I feel like maybe just they didn't have a bad year last year. But they had a pretty good recruiting class. I won't say it was great, but they had a good recruiting class.
Right.
Kind of shocked a little bit that they're in the top 20. I could have seen them 21 or at 20 to maybe 25.
So you think they're top 25 good?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Just not as high.
They're not going to be a top 10. I don't believe they'll be a top 10 team this year, but definitely top 25.
Right. Like you said, they had some good, a few big name recruits.
Yeah.
Good.
And they've got, they had some good guys coming in.
Right. But I mean, they're going to have to they got to replace Kaya at quarterback, which I mean, in college football, it's clearly the most important position.
It's tough.
But so you think they're going to be able to do that?
I don't know, man. They're in a tough division in the ACC. The ACC has a lot of good teams.
They do.
So whenever it's like Alabama having to play these tough teams week in, week out. You got Clemson, Florida State, Louisville.
Right.
Played pretty well last year.
Virginia Tech.
Tech, yeah, exactly. So, no, I mean, they're going to be a good team, and I don't think they'll be top tier ACC. Mm-hmm. But they'll definitely be a good team. They can be a team that can upset somebody if you overlook them too much.
Right.
But
see their schedule. I mean, I don't really think as far as non-conference goes, there's no, big name games there.
Yeah.
I mean, they play Notre Dame. They always play Notre Dame. So. All right, speaking of South Florida, or Southern Florida, well, what about actual South Florida being in the top 25? You don't see them there very often.
South Florida's been one of those teams where, you can't look at them as being a top team, but the past couple of years, they've been in, the top 25, and they've been a really, really good team. Don't have, they're not in a big conference. They're not going to play a lot of good teams. Had a pretty good year last year.
I think they're the best record in the conference last year.
Yeah, they did. But, that's a conference that holds, Tulsa and Temple. And nothing against those programs, not taking anything away from them.
I mean, Navy.
Navy, yeah. And Houston's got a good...
And, Houston.
But it's just not when you think about that,
right.
that conference. You don't think a lot of maybe one or two teams that could be something special. So.
Right. Looking at their schedule, I mean, they play Illinois as their big non-conference game, and that's really it.
Is that really a big non-conference game?
I mean, for them, I guess it's pretty much as big as it's going to get. And Illinois is coming there, so with this schedule, I mean, do you think they have enough here if they were to go undefeated? I mean, is that enough to get them in the conversation for the playoff, or
you'd have to look at what some of these other teams that they're playing are doing, of course.
Right.
But then you have to look at their strength of schedule as well. You could look at Cincinnati. Just they've had some success in the past. Houston, of course, has had some success in the past. However, they're coming off a season where they lost their head coach. So you got a new guy coming in, or a new head coach.
Right.
But it could be a good year for them. I think it will be a good year for them. I don't see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs. I mean, the conference, Navy and Houston they're down. I mean, both of those teams are always dangerous. But this year, neither's ranked. South Florida's the only ranked team, so they don't have anyone that's really ahead of them that they could beat. Like everybody they're playing is arguably worse than they are. So I mean, it's not going to help their case. Even Illinois, Power 5 teams, going to be middle of the road in the
and you go with the top 25 being taken over by ACC schools,
Big Ten. There's a
Big
lot
Ten schools. So top 25 is kind of covered in maybe three really big conferences.
Big Ten has 4 teams in the top 10.
Yeah, so I mean the SEC has what, 6?
In the top 10, the SEC's got the 1.
Oh, top 10, but top 25 they have.
Yes, of course. From top to bottom, they've got a lot.
So it's going to be tough for South Florida to be able to have a good case for them.
So you see these teams here, and you've looked at it. Which 4 teams here do you see making at the end of the year making the playoff?
Okay, biased of course. I'm going to Alabama.
Right.
I think Alabama would definitely be one of those teams.
So you're saying they win week 1, just without bias?
Well, I'm getting to that. Getting to that. I think Florida State will also make it. And that's not taken away from that first week. I think, of course, biased, I'm going to pull for Alabama to win it.
And I think they'll be favored.
Yeah. But I think Florida State's got a really good team. I think being able for Florida State, you look at USC last year. USC came out, didn't play very well against them. And after, that week, they started, kind of getting
they changed quarterbacks.
Getting in the groove of things, kind of going off of that. But I think if Alabama does win, that'll help Florida State because they have played a top team in the nation, and they can go off of that because you're not going to see a team, I think, as physical and that'll dominate like Alabama will.
Right.
So I think Alabama's in, Florida State's in. Looking at this list, I think USC will make it. I think USC's got a real good chance to be a dang good team this year. They've got that quarterback who is supposed to be really good. He's looking at people are looking at him as possibly winning the Heisman. So I think he's going to have a good year for them. I think that that's going to help them out in the long run. And the 4th team, I would probably say, I'm going to say Penn State. They've got a lot of guys coming back. They don't, they're going to play some really good teams. But I think the biggest game on their schedule will probably end up being when they go to Ohio State in October. That's going to be, I feel like that's going to be a deciding game. I feel like the winner of that may end up, depending on how the first half of the season is gone, will probably end up going to be a team in the playoffs.
Well, they play Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
There's no bye week in between there either.
Well, yeah.
So that's pretty. I mean, that's a pretty tough.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but I think, Michigan lost a lot of guys.
You mean Jabril Peppers?
Jabril Peppers.
He played seven positions.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant by a lot of guys. He played so many.
They lost a lot of positions.
They lost a lot of positions.
Just one guy.
Yeah. But no, I think Michigan. I just don't think Michigan will be as good this year. I think Ohio State still will be as good. So I think it'll come down to that Penn State-Ohio State game.
And you've got Penn State. Are you just the winner of that game?
Yeah, and I'm going to pull for Penn State, even though it's at Ohio State, just because they've got a lot of these guys coming back. And last year, they were at the top of the East. Them and Ohio State had the same conference record.
Right.
And they finished...
I mean, they beat Ohio State.
Yeah, they beat Ohio State. So, I don't know, I'm kind of leaning in favor of Penn State in this.
Well, I'd say at the end of last season, I mean, Ohio State got shut out in the first round of the playoff.
Yeah.
And exactly. Penn State lost on a last-second field goal to USC, who was clearly
a good team. Yeah,
number 4 in the country.
Yeah.
So I would say at the end of the season, Penn State was by far the best team in that conference.
Hands down. Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Well, like USC, early in the year, they lost some games that they couldn't afford to lose. And by the end of the season, it was too late.
Yeah.
So I think Penn State is going to have a chip on their shoulder this year, especially in the Ohio State game like that, because they beat them last year, and it was a big upset.
Yeah.
But this year, they know that they're as good as them. They beat them last year. They know that they have what it takes. Yeah. And this year, they're looking to make the playoff, and they know in order to do that, they're going to have to beat Michigan and Ohio State. Most likely both of those teams. I think they can afford to lose one of them, but to guarantee a trip, they got to beat both.
Yeah.
And that Ohio State game, like you said,
I think that honestly, I think that has the makings of being one of the best games of this upcoming season.
So. I sure hope so.
Penn State needs to have a good year up to that game, and I think they will be. They're not playing very many. Like you said, you were playing Michigan the week before, but they're at home when they play Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, Akron, Pitt, Georgia State, Iowa, Indiana, Northwestern. It's not much.
I think they're going to have a good. I think them and Ohio State both are going to have a pretty good year up until that point. I think that's going to be a tough game for both teams, and I think the winner of that will end up making it.
And for me, I agree. Alabama. I mean, graduated there, everything, love them. But they're the number one team in the poll for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, returning quarterback, a lot of returning players.
Yeah.
They lost a lot, defensive line and stuff. But they replace 3-4 defensive players every year. It's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you said Florida State. I'm going to say Clemson. And the reason is, Florida State plays Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And, that right there, it's got the makings of an amazing game.
Oh, yeah.
To start the season.
Hands off. Yeah, hands down. Yeah.
And Clemson also plays an SEC team early in the year, but they play Auburn, who, Auburn is ranked. And they're in the top 15.
But they're home against Auburn, so.
They are. But I just think comparing Alabama and Auburn as your biggest non-conference games, other than your South Carolina, Florida games at the end of the year, which I'll get to, Clemson definitely has a better chance of beating Auburn than Florida State does against Alabama. I think Clemson will most likely beat Auburn. And Florida State, Alabama, I'm not going to say it's a coin toss, but Florida State could beat Alabama, but Alabama's the better team.
Yeah.
And like I say, in the Florida, South Carolina games at the end of the season, every year Florida State's got to play Florida, and this year they should be pretty good. They're ranked 16 in the coaches poll. Every year Florida's going to be a good team. They're not going to be a great team.
Yeah.
But that rivalry, it has some good games, and you never know what's going to happen, but South Carolina, I know that they hate Clemson and Clemson hates them, but recently
is that really a game?
Recently, it's not really. It's not much of a threat for Clemson. So I think that those two, the SEC teams that Florida State and Clemson play, Clemson has the easiest route. They don't play Alabama and Florida. They're playing Auburn and South Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest reason, and they play each other. And that game, of course, is going to decide. That's going to have a great, factor in deciding who will make it. And you got Louisville looming, down there.
Yeah.
Right around 20. They're at 17, I think. In Miami. You're going to have to beat these teams.
Yes.
But I just think Clemson gets in out of the ACC. And the ACC is deep this year.
Yeah,
it goes 5 years.
Yeah.
So, it's not... You can compare it. You can start to compare it to maybe the SEC during a down year like this. Because let's not pretend that the SEC's not a little down. You got a new coach at LSU.
As bad as
Ole Miss,
agree with you. I definitely do agree with you.
Georgia might be the best team out of the East. Kirby Smart's still trying to, learn how to run a team.
Yeah.
So the SEC's a little down. But So I got Alabama, Clemson right now, and as far as the Big Ten, I mean, I might as well get this out of the way because clearly a team's getting out of the Big Ten. Like they're going to make it, even with one loss. In the way that this conference is built up right now, with 4 teams in the top 10, I mean, somebody's going to make it. And I'm with you as far as the Penn State-Ohio State game. That game's going to be great, but Penn State hasn't really had hadn't had a target on their back this size for a while. I mean, it's been a few years since Penn State out of the gate has been touted as a top 10 team.
Yeah, you got to look back at when Joe Powell was the head coach.
So Ohio State and Urban Meyer especially is so used to handling the pressure of being a top 3 team, top 2 team. Coming in the preseason, like he understands what it takes to prepare for that. To get the kids ready for don't let the rating get to you. Like you can lose. You lost to Penn State last year and you shouldn't have. So anybody can lose to anybody. And I just don't know is it James Franklin at Penn State now? I mean, I just don't know if he is going to be able to keep the kids focused. And last year the way it ended was great. It was a really good learning lesson for them. To say hey, you were good. You made it to the Rose Bowl. Arguably you were just as good as USC. It just came down to who had the ball last. And I feel like if Penn State was in that situation, you switch it, Penn State would have won that game. Whoever had the ball last.
I feel like Penn State last year was in a position to learn how to win.
Right, and I think they did great. I think they handled it very well.
And they came up short in some games last year. But I feel like this year they're going to take that lesson from learning how to win and be able to fully transition into winning ball games against big teams.
I hate the term moral victory. I can't stand it. You're a coach. You understand. If you lose, you lose.
If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win.
If there ever was a moral victory, Penn State getting to the Rose Bowl and keeping the game as close as they did against a team like USC, that could be a moral victory. Because it did a lot for James Franklin and his team.
I think that's going to be a motivation factor for this Penn State team.
They got a taste of it. They tasted success, but they didn't hold on to it. They were right there. And let's not forget, just 4 or 5 years ago, this program was just decimated.
A complete 180.
And I know that they took away some of the sanctions, but I remember watching this team struggle in week 1 to Ohio University. Not Ohio State, Ohio
University.
That's how bad they were. I mean, that's how bad the situation was. And now up to number 6. So I mean, they were just in the basement, and now they're trying to be at the top. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to hang on to this. I mean, number 6 in the coaches poll. We don't know about AP poll or anything yet, and I'm sure they'll be in the top 10 there as well. I don't see them going up any higher, but I don't see them dropping much either. I just think that Urban Meyer and Ohio State, until somebody finally proves that they can stop Urban Meyer and Ohio State in the Big Ten, I'm just going to keep picking them. Because they're like Alabama. They always find a way. They always get there. So I got to go with Ohio State there. And this 4th team, this is where it gets tough because
you got 2 that you can pretty much put in there, and I think
there's more than just 2.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well. Of course you have Alabama. A lot of people are going to put Alabama as one of those teams. And then you can pick, Florida State, Clemson out of the ACC. You pick one of those teams out of the Big Ten. And then you've got this team where,
So you're giving the ACC, SEC, and Big Ten a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But we didn't – you talked about USC and the Pac-12 a little bit. Never touched on the Big 12. Not one. Oklahoma State,
Well, see,
West Virginia, Texas. I mean –
I feel like those are teams that can upset a big team, but I don't feel like those are the teams that
you got to remember
can make that run.
Stoops is out at Oklahoma.
Yeah, Stoops is out at Oklahoma.
I mean, Oklahoma's still Oklahoma, and they're still playing with Bob Stoops' talent.
Yeah,
he recruited these kids. He always recruits very well.
And Baker Mayfield did get in some trouble this offseason, and they lost D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah, he's gone, but Mayfield is back, and a lot of people see him as being, as far as Heisman goes, one of the the top guys. He's not going to be a great NFL talent because his game doesn't transition well. He's not a pocket guy or anything. He's just a playmaker, which we've seen doesn't really transition that well to the next level. But this year in college, he's going to keep Oklahoma relevant, even if the head coach, they're still trying to figure it out early. But this year, you got to look at Oklahoma State. They always give Oklahoma trouble. And it always comes down to them. It seems like Bedlam's always a huge game. And remember, they don't have a conference championship because, the conference it's the Big 12, but it's got, 10 teams? I don't know. They need to fix that. Just let Houston in already. I mean, come on. And that game always gets the last week of the season, and the game always goes pretty far into deciding who's going to go on to the next level. So this year, I think that Oklahoma State might be able to beat them. I think that this might be Oklahoma State's year because they smell blood in the water a little bit with Stoops being out, and they see where they're at right here at 11. So they're there. They're up there. They're getting some recognition, and I just think that this might be their year. So look for Oklahoma State. Just make some noise. And Oklahoma, they're still going to be good. Let's not act like losing your head coach makes you a terrible team.
Yeah.
I mean, because LSU's still going to be pretty good, and they got Orgeron going, and then whoever. I mean, you freezes out at Ole Miss, but they're still not going to be they're not going to be a pushover.
They're not going to be. Yeah, you're not going to be able to step over them.
So I mean, losing your head coach it hurts, but it's not the end of the world. Especially if you're still playing with 5-star recruits that head coach brought to your school. Yeah. So I think Oklahoma State, they're going to be relevant towards the end of the year. And if one or two of those teams, one or both teams have one loss or less, I can see the winner getting in because they don't have to play in that conference championship.
Yeah.
And in this situation, that helps them. Because usually, it hurts them. You need that big win against that ranked team, right? It's not what you've done, it's what you've done lately. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So I just think that Bedlam could be a very big game this year, bigger than it has been in the past few years. But USC, I mean, Washington's still up there, but you saw Alabama expose Washington last year. Washington was better last year.
Yeah.
And they didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
They didn't know what to do against a team like Alabama.
Yeah.
And that would have been the same case for Ohio State, Clemson, any of these other Penn State, USC at the end of the year, any of these teams that were good enough to be in the playoff last year, they wouldn't have been able to beat them either. So I just see USC right now. You have Stanford at 14, and I mean Stanford and USC. They don't like each other, of course, and it's California rivalries. I get that, but USC they seem so much better.
Yeah. Than
the rest of the Pac-12.
Yeah, they're going to ride that momentum they had towards the end of last year.
I just don't know.
With Sam Darnold at quarterback, and he's looking at him as a possible Heisman.
I mean, he's number one odds right now, according to pretty much everybody. And like you said, a lot of people are looking at him as the number one pick.
Yeah, and I want to say they brought in a receiver or two in the recruiting class.
They always bring in. I mean,
and they're going to have a good football team. USC is going to have a good football team.
Oh, always, yeah.
So.
And I see, like you said, they won the Rose Bowl and they beat a good team in Penn State. So, like you said, they're still. I know it happened months ago, but. I mean, you coach well. Like big wins at the how you finished the season before, it helps a lot in starting the next.
Oh,
season.
It definitely does. Definitely does.
Like I look for Clemson to just come out swinging.
Yeah, you could have a good first 2 or 3 games, and then look at Louisville last year. They had a good 5, 6 games, and they started dropping. And Clemson, it was kind of different. Clemson had.
They started off slow.
They started off slow.
Let's not forget that Troy took Clemson to
exactly.
Troy.
And look at Auburn. That game
got lucky.
That was close.
I still don't understand why going for it on 4th down late in the game. I hope Dabo Swinney's not the next coach at Alabama. I'm just throwing that out there right now. I hope not.
A lot of people that disagree with that.
I don't care. I couldn't care less. I don't want a coach that dances on the sideline. You see Gene Stallings?
I agree with that point.
You ever see Gene Stallings dance on the sideline?
I don't think I ever saw Bear Bryant. Yeah, I never saw him.
I don't think so. Saban? You ever seen Saban dance on the sideline?
After the game.
What all those? They all have championships?
A lot of rings.
A lot between. Wow, yeah.
So I mean, look at Coach Saban and Coach Bryant. How many rings they have?
Yeah,
each.
A lot. So, and then let's not Frank Thomas and was it Wallace Wade way back in the day?
Yeah.
These are military guys.
Yeah.
So the one thing that all these Alabama coaches have in common, they don't high five and dance around and make secret handshakes with their players. They're not there to be friends; they're there to win.
I think about it, and I'm not saying that this is, I'm not saying this is this person, but Dabo, the way he communicates with his players and all, kind of reminds me of how Shula was with his players. I felt like Shula was more buddy with his players.
Yeah, he was, but it's a different situation.
It is a different situation, and Dabo is a good coach. However, look at what Dabo was doing pre-Deshaun Watson.
Right. I have a good comparison for you. This is a good one. Dabo Swinney is Steve Kerr, okay? And Nick Saban is Greg Popovich. And at the end of the day, both of these coaches are good coaches, okay?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, one of these coaches clearly has more success than the other.
Yeah.
One of them gets to the championship.
Yeah.
But he can't quite finish as consistently. Popovich and Saban, they know how to win. They know how to get to the big stage, win the big stage.
Yeah.
Kerr and Dabo, it just seems like they're happy to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and like you said, it took Watson for Dabo to like just break through. And with Steve Kerr, like you had to add another piece.
And you have to look at what Clemson's losing. You know, they lost their linebacker, they lost the receiver,
the best quarterback in the country.
Yeah, exactly. And they lost, you know, the tight end and they're losing a lot of these guys that they're having to replace.
But they will. I mean, you won a championship. You can get
the momentum. They
pretty
still have
much
a lot of
anybody
momentum.
you want,
Yeah.
unless Alabama's after them.
Yeah.
But just like I said, I have Alabama, Clemson, USC, and Ohio State, and you had Alabama, Florida State, USC, and Penn State. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're both iffy on the Big 12, and the reason is, like I said, Oklahoma State. I can see either one of them getting in, but both of them are very good. USC is pretty much a league of their own in the Pac-12. Stanford, Washington, good luck. Maybe you can do something, but I just don't see it.
And this year, I feel, you know, there's so many like legitimate football teams. After watching the Clemson Alabama game last year,
one of the best games.
The
last two championship games.
Yeah,
some of the best games I've ever seen.
And you have to look at that, and you're like, well, you know, Alabama's not running over these teams like they did Michigan State.
Well, we were until Bo Scarborough broke his leg.
But
let's
like
just be honest.
These big name teams, you know. And of course USC last year, but you know that was the beginning of the year.
They weren't starting Sam Darnold at the time.
So you know you got to look at that. You know, there's a lot of good teams that any 4 of the top 10 could make it easy.
Oh, easy.
So I say easy. You know, you could choose any 4 of those teams and feel you know somewhat confident. But it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good year. It's going to be one of the best football seasons in college football.
And you said any of the 4 top 10 teams, but let's talk about. Give me some teams on the outside that you think could get in.
Okay, I'm gonna
give me 2. You know, give me 4. Give me 4 teams. Just do a playoff bracket of 4 teams that could be dark horses.
Okay.
And I can go first. You can go first this time. It's up to you.
I'll go first.
All right.
I'll go with. I'll put Wisconsin.
Right. Okay. They have a favorable schedule.
Yeah.
Of those teams,
they got a good schedule.
Of the 4 Big Ten teams in the top 10, they only play Michigan.
Yeah.
So they're avoiding the Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I can see that. It's a good one.
This is tough because you know, I feel like you know there's that top tier with those 6, 7 teams, and then there's that.
I mean, last year Washington wasn't rated quite as high at the beginning of the year. So I feel like, we've seen that teams can get there.
Yeah.
They can play their way in. But
this is tough.
Well, I agree with your Wisconsin pick. So we'll both claim that one.
Okay, Wisconsin.
And I still say, like I said, Oklahoma State. They're 11 and Wisconsin's 10, so it's not.
Oklahoma State has the making of messing somebody's season up.
Right.
Easy. And they've had that the past couple of years.
They've come. I mean, let's not forget last year that Central Michigan game where the refs completely screwed up.
Yeah.
That if they win that game like they should have, then going into the Oklahoma game, both teams are 1 loss or undefeated.
Yeah.
And you have a chance for the winner of that. I think gets in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the situation I see this year, where Bedlam's going to be a situation where Oklahoma and Oklahoma State go there with everything on the line.
Yeah.
And the gap between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State this year, it's very small. It's not as big as it usually is. Mm-hmm. So I think we got Wisconsin, and I think Oklahoma State. We might both agree there.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else? Just looking at it, then we have to be in the top 25. We can go down here to these teams that are getting some attention.
Let's see. Let's see these teams.
Because I look at. You have some Big 12 teams. West Virginia's off, and you got South Florida. We both agreed that South Florida probably can't play their way in.
Yeah,
because the schedule is
it's just not.
If they had, like Houston last year, played Oklahoma week 1, and they made a statement. If South Florida had that statement game and they won, I would give them some attention. But you play Illinois in like week 3, that's not enough. It's not enough to do anything.
I tell you what, I'm probably not going to get a lot of people to agree with me with this one. I think again, this is a team that can mess your season up. I'm going to go Michigan State. Michigan State has, they've got a chance to, maybe they're not going to have the best year, but they can always, mess somebody's year up with one good week.
That's true.
And then
Mike D'Antoni does know how to win.
Yeah, he knows how to win. Exactly.
He's been at the top before.
Yeah.
Once you get kind of lower, I will say
there's a lot of. It's just you look at some of these teams that have so many flaws that just it's tough.
I will say
I can't go A&M because
any of the SEC teams, I think, are gonna
just
some teams to look at. Georgia, I think, has an outside chance simply because I see them winning the East.
Yeah,
and that means that they would get to play likely Alabama in the SEC championship, which anything can happen.
Yeah, I look at a couple years ago. It came down to that last play.
But Georgia was probably the second best team in the country.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, you were overrated.
Yeah.
It was clear that the national championship was the SEC championship.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
But I see Texas has the schedule lines up because they play USC week 3. Mm-hmm. Which obviously
that's going to be a big test that first week.
It's a big test for both of them.
First of the year,
because we have to remember, if I remember correctly, USC plays Stanford before they play Texas, and if that's true, I mean, right there.
Yeah, USC goes back to back.
Yeah, so that puts you starting against 2 top 25 teams. And if Stanford, I don't see Stanford beating USC, obviously.
I don't either.
But that's Stanford, Texas back-to-back, no bye week in between. If Stanford can at least play them physically and rough them up, Texas could have a chance. Because Texas is never going to be, I mean, we've seen Texas be bad. I won't say they're never going to be a bad team, but they're starting over, a new coach, and they have a chance to just, that statement game, that I was talking about, if South Florida had this, it would be different. Texas has that game. And of course they play Oklahoma, and they play the other teams.
Yeah.
So they have a schedule where if they can win these big games, like upset USC, upset Oklahoma, they're right there. Because, I mean, that schedule is what you have to have to be and they play West Virginia, who's also ranked. They play Oklahoma State. They play these teams. Kansas State's ranked. They have a favorable schedule. Yeah, they got a favorable schedule. And that goes the same for, I won't say West Virginia and Kansas State as much because they do play these other Big 12 teams, but they don't have that staple early season game. So Texas is one to look out for. I don't see it happening, but if they were to beat USC, just watch out because, you win a big game as a football team, it changes everything. Yeah, you upset a team that you were not supposed to beat. You've been there. Yeah, it can just change your season for the rest of the season. Well, you play like a totally different team.
Look at Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State. That started years of just bad football.
And it also put Appalachian State on the map.
Exactly.
And to this day, they're still
when
at
you
school.
Think of Appalachian State, you think of the block field goal. And
they got
the guy running
top 25 votes.
Yeah, exactly. So,
as a FCS team that year.
Yeah.
So it can change you. A big win can change a program for a long time or for just a season. In this case, Texas, I think it could change them for a season. Yeah. So we both agree Wisconsin, Oklahoma State.
I'll go Texas. I definitely agree Texas.
It's got the making.
And then Michigan State for me.
You got Michigan State, and that's a bold choice. And if I was going to just go way out of left field like you did, oh man. I feel like, of course, Notre Dame's, since they're Notre Dame, they're always going to get the benefit of the doubt with voters and the media because Notre Dame, for some reason,
it's tradition.
They get all the attention of Alabama and Ohio State without having to do nearly as much work to get it. And we all saw in, 2012? It was the 2012 National Championship. The gap's huge. Yeah, it's still enormous. And Notre Dame was the undefeated number 1 team that year. Yeah. And you saw how good they are compared to Alabama. But they're always going to get there. They shouldn't have been in the championship.
Notre Dame. Yeah.
They shouldn't have made that. But I see them. They're always going to be there. And they were right outside the top 25. What did the voters have them at? 26, 7, 8. They had them right at 30, 29, 30. So, I mean, they're there. They're right there. So I guess I'll go Notre Dame. And I hate it, but we've seen it a million times before. Notre Dame can win 10 games, lose to 2 crappy teams, and be top 10 somehow. We keep seeing it. So I'm going to pick it until it stops happening. So we got favorites to go to the play in your playoff teams. Who wins? I didn't ask you that.
Okay, so here's what I would
seed them
like to see. Okay, Alabama number 1,
right? Of course.
USC number 2.
Okay, so we're avoiding them.
Penn State number 3.
All right, and them.
Florida State number 4.
So you want to see a rematch of Alabama?
I would like to see Alabama, Florida State
to start and end the season.
Right, and a rematch of last year's Rose Bowl.
That would be.
That would be really interesting to see. I think
the media probably wants to see that too.
Man,
got storylines everywhere.
They're foaming at the mouth right now.
And for me, I would love to see those matchups. If your teams were to make it, that would be great to watch. Assuming that Alabama beats Florida State week 1.
I doubt that's going to happen. There's not a high percentage that is going to happen.
even three of these teams
you got to look at Ohio State, Clemson, Penn State, or Washington,
USC.
You got to look at those teams that
they all play good teams. And let's not pretend Alabama's a lock.
They're not. Yeah, I mean, look, LSU. Auburn's always, no matter what it is, how good or bad they are.
I mean, Alabama's plays Florida State. Tennessee's ranked.
Yeah.
Auburn, obviously. LSU, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, they play a good... Texas A&M's right outside there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they play a good schedule. So, Alabama's not a lock to get in, but like I was talking about with Urban Meyer and Ohio State, until somebody stops them from making it, I'm just going to keep picking them.
Yeah.
I need a reason not to.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
for the past... Since the playoffs started, 3 years, I haven't had a reason to.
Bama's been in every year, so...
Right. I mean, they played for the national championship, 5-6 times in the last decade.
Yeah.
It's
I'm
just going to take the statistics there and bet on them.
Yeah.
But I would say Alabama, I want them to be number one. And as far as their first round game of the teams I picked, man, I saw them play USC last year, and I would like to see that in the first round. I just want to see if the gap's closed.
Alabama USC?
Because
okay.
I feel like, obviously the gap's closed some because Sam Darnold was on the bench that game, and it wasn't close. I don't think Sam Darnold makes up a 35-point deficit or whatever it was.
Yeah.
He'll make it close. It'd be respectful.
Yeah.
But I just want to see if the gap's closed any.
Okay, so you got Clemson and who else at 2 and 3?
I have Clemson, and then I had Ohio State.
Okay.
And that's a rematch of last year's. And Clemson shut out Ohio State. So Ohio State would just love a chance to play them again.
Get back at them.
Just absolutely love to be able to fix what happened last year, because that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, a team like that should never.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even like that they got shut out. It's they got shut out and gave up, 35 points or something?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even close on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
They got beat everywhere. So I would love to see those two rematches to see if the gap's closed any.
Yeah.
And I'd say Alabama would probably beat USC still. It's closer, but it's still not. USC's still not quite there. Give them a year or two, but Darnold leaving, you have to replace him. I don't know if they'll ever catch up. And Watson being out's the question mark. I don't know.
And they've lost so many guys. They lost Leggett, they lost Watson, they lost
when you lose
Williams. There's just a lot of guys on that offensive side of the ball that...
I mean, we just witnessed, everybody, including Clemson, just witnessed the best quarterback they've ever had.
Easy.
In their history.
Easy.
And when you see Derrick Henry for Alabama leave, you can't replace him.
Yeah,
There's no replacing him. You have to find somebody to take the spot.
You got guys that come in that can...
They're good.
Not necessarily be another Derrick Henry, but be...
Or Deshaun Watson.
There will never be another... To me, in my opinion, there will never be another what Deshaun Watson was to Clemson.
Well, statistically speaking, it's probably never going to be either.
Never. So...
His stats were I probably broke all the school records as far as passing and quarterback stuff goes.
Bama's got Bo, but he's not a Derrick Henry.
So I don't know if the quarterback play is fine for them, like immediately starting against Auburn. Auburn's defense is notoriously underwhelming. We'll try to be nice. It's never that good.
Yeah.
And if the quarterback can just carve Auburn up and down the field without just effortlessly, then I'm fine with them. I'll take them over Ohio State. But if he struggles, I think Ohio State wins it, just because they lost a lot, but Urban Meyer's used to that.
Oh yeah,
Saban, Urban Meyer, you just replace.
Yeah, they got JT Barrett at quarterback.
Yeah, you just reload everybody. I mean, you're replacing all NFL talent with NFL talent. Urban Meyer and Saban are probably the only two coaches that know what that's like.
Yeah, that's what I get at. Ohio State beating Alabama that year. The first year of the playoffs kind of helped them. So
definitely that was
they started getting those high end recruits like Alabama has been.
Well, Ohio State has the name. Meyer had the name.
Exactly.
And you put them together.
Exactly. That brings you in top recruits every single year at all these positions. So
Meyer's the one coach in the league, and I dislike Urban Meyer just so much for the way he handled Florida, leaving, coming back, leaving.
Yeah.
Taking a year off to go coach at Ohio State after just retiring to spend time with your family. Don't. Be a man. Be a man.
It was more than that.
Be a man. Just say why you want. You lost your Tim. You lost Tim Tebow. You lost all your NFL talent. Just say that's why you retired. Okay. Yeah. Don't sugarcoat it and then just completely look like a jerk the next year.
Yeah.
But he's the next coach behind Saban. Like, as of right now, there's nobody. It's the Saban, Meyer, and then the rest of the field.
Yeah.
And the two of them, until somebody dethrones both of them in their conference, I'm never going to pick against them.
Yeah.
And in that championship game, I would love it, because the last time we played Ohio State, like you said,
they They beat us. That was late Sims.
It was one of the hardest pills to swallow.
Man, that was tough.
I mean, I've seen us lose in the last-second field goal return against Auburn. I've seen us lose on a questionable play in last year's championship game. We'll just leave it at that. Questionable touchdown.
Yeah.
So, but those games, that wasn't as hard to swallow as the Ohio State. Like, that was just a third-string quarterback and a lot of injuries and stuff like that.
Ezekiel Elliott and those guys. So
I would love to see Alabama and Ohio State because that game was close. Like, it's not like Ohio State just destroyed them. It was close, but I think Alabama would get them this time.
Okay. Well, since we're on Alabama topic, just for a second, because I think we'll have another episode where we get more into this. Give me your opinion on Alabama's team right now, just in a quick.
All right, I'll give you about 30. I'll give you about 15, 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I still want to get into the Heisman stuff.
Yeah. We're gonna get into that. Just kind of swap. Just kind of get people ready for what's coming.
I think, just real quick, quarterback play. It's gonna be fine. Returning quarterback, I feel good. Running backs, maybe the deepest it's ever been. Yeah. Receivers, you have Ridley. You're gonna be okay. You bring in some freshmen. You got guys stepping up. Yeah. It's hard to replace O.J. Howard at the tight end, but we're gonna be fine. Yeah. Defensive backs, as long as you have Fitzpatrick. Got to replace Eddie Jackson, but played without him at the end of the year.
Averett too, so
they got the defensive backs fine, linebacker core fine. The defensive line and offensive line. I mean, the defensive line you got to replace a lot of talent, but we will. And the offensive line, I think it's going to be strong. Yeah, I think it's always going to be strong, and if it's strong, nobody's going to stop us running the ball because nobody ever has. Yeah, and that's what I feel. I feel like
there you go.
Maybe lose a game in the regular season, but honestly, if it's not Florida State, I don't know who it is.
Okay.
What about you? 15, 20 seconds.
I'd say quarterback, same. You got Hurts coming back. I like Tagovailoa. Right. I think he's going to be a dead-gum good athlete. Running backs, like you said, deepest has probably ever been. And I believe that all five of these guys that we have are going to play an important role at some point, no matter where they're at, where it's special teams or offense, whatever.
Oh, yeah. They'll find a spot.
Yeah. Receivers, you got Jerry Jeudy coming in. You got Calvin Ridley coming back. You got a lot of these freshmen coming in. Alabama's going to have a younger team this year, but I think that's going to help us in the long run.
Younger doesn't mean worse.
Exactly. Offensive line is right there where they were last year, of course. I like the DBs this year. I like where we're going with the DBs. Linebackers going to be different. We got Deion Hamilton coming back. We're going to have Keith, of course, coming back. We'll be fine. D-line, I think the same. It's tough losing to Jonathan Allen and a Ryan Anderson and a Tim Williams, but
that's where we lost the most talent.
Yeah, but you'll be fine. Deshaun Hand, you got these guys coming in that
I mean, all Americans replaced by all Americans.
Exactly. So I think Alabama could have a chance to be even better than last year. So
I agree. I can see that being the case. And last year, it's hard to be better than 14-1.
Yeah, and that many defensive touchdowns too. I mean,
yeah. But all right. So, like I said, I want to get in. We'll kind of wrap this up with the Heisman talk because everybody's got to talk about the Heisman.
Okay.
It's apparently the only award that really matters.
I'm on ride the coattails of everybody else and go. My favorite right now is Sam Darnold.
Do you see Lamar Jackson? Does he have a chance?
I don't think so.
Back-to-back. No chance. I don't see it personally.
I think last year it was had Deshaun Watson not played as. And I say this very lightly, poorly, as he started off.
Like you said.
Lamar doesn't... I mean, he had a rough start. That's it. It sums it up. Lamar doesn't win it last year at all.
Honestly, personally, I think... I mean, good for Archie Griffin. I mean, great for him. But I think that there's no reason in the world that somebody should win the Heisman 2 years in a row. And the reason being, the first year they win it, next year, the only way they can win that is if they do better than the year they did before. Yeah. And somebody like Lamar Jackson, and any Heisman winner
do better than Lamar Jackson started off last year. I mean, that's
any Heisman
really
winner
tough.
Since then. Like, I mean, the reason they won the Heisman is because they put up better numbers.
Yeah,
or supposedly because they put up better numbers than anyone, and that means that next year they'd have to put up better numbers than everyone, and then put up better numbers than they did last year.
Yeah.
And that's just, I don't see how that is possible.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. I mean, Archie Griffin, I'm not saying that he would necessarily be the guy I would have picked to win 2 in a row, but I just don't see it ever happening.
Yeah.
At least not this year.
I do like Josh Rosen. I've always been a Josh Rosen fan from UCLA. Like watching him play. He's got a good arm. He's accurate.
He's a fighter, too.
He's a fighter, yeah. He's a tough kid.
Best team to be on.
Yeah. I like him. Don't necessarily think he'll win it just because you got some of these top guys towards the top, but he's definitely one of those guys that can kind of sneak his way up into the conversation.
And we touched on Barrett coming back at Ohio State, and everybody knows if you're the best player on one of the best teams, you're always up there.
Yeah,
and that's why I was going to ask you, Jalen Hurts. I would assume Jalen Hurts would probably be the best player. If Bo Scarborough comes back 100% off that broken leg, then the two of them, it might hurt their cases because Alabama's always had multiple Heisman candidates.
You give the ball to Bo, and it's taking snaps away from Jalen.
Somebody's going to lose touches.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to stand out on a team, and you got to put Ridley in the mix too.
Yeah. And even then, you got Bo, who has been injury prone. He has had a couple
in high school. I mean,
exactly. Yeah, I played against him.
Exactly.
He has had some stuff going with his knees. His first year at Alabama, blew out his knee again.
Everybody knows.
Got hurt last year.
You mess your legs up as a running back,
and
you're not going to be the same. You lose a step.
It's tough. And then that, and then you got Najee Harris coming in. So
he's the number one running back. He's supposed to be the next big thing.
And no offense to Bo. Bo's good. Everybody knows that Bo's good, but you got a guy like Najee coming in. You don't get guys like that come in every year.
Alabama does.
Well, Alabama does. But, it's just tough, man. I think, Jalen and Bo are both going to have good years, but them being on the same team in the same exact backfield, it's going to take away from each other. And
Jalen Hurts, Bo Scarborough, and Calvin Ridley all on the same team.
Yeah, that's
all at different positions. There's no way that an Alabama player wins the Heisman, and that's the reason that only two have. It's because they're always stacked.
I'll take the Natty before I take the Heisman winner.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I agree with you. I think A.J. McCarron would probably agree with you too.
Yeah.
And just looking at it, everybody's pretty high on Francois from Florida State, and
he gets hit so much, man.
He always got up. In that Ole Miss game, he earned my respect immediately. Yeah. From just, he was down every play, especially at the end of the game. His team was beat. Yeah. Offensive line was just tired. They could not block. He didn't care.
Yeah, you can't do much when your line's not blocking for you when you get hit that much, and that's nothing taken away from him. He's a good athlete. He's got so much quarterback. But when you get hit so much, there's no way that you can make plays like that. So,
and the first game against, and I hate to say this, but I feel like the first game of the season, and this is me maybe wishful thinking, the first game of the season is gonna kind of put a damper on his Heisman campaign, because if you don't play well against the best defense you're going to play all year, it's going to be really hard.
It's going to be tough. It doesn't really matter how good you play the rest of the year.
Exactly.
If you can't,
just ask Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is a prime example. He was, he looked like a man among boys. Yeah. 11 games out of 12. But that 12th game,
the past 3 years.
3 years in a row. He was a machine. Except
it's like 84 yards all 3 years against the same. I won't even say the same defense, because it wasn't the same defense.
It was just the same
defense. Team. Yeah.
Every year, the best defense he played, he struggled, and that's the reason he never won the Heisman. That and some injuries, and a lot of people question his work ethic. But I think Francois is going to be the same thing. I don't see him having a great game against Alabama or necessarily Clemson, for that matter. So I'm going to kind of rule him out. So realistically speaking, you got Darnold.
I got Darnold winning it. That's simply because he is in a good position at USC. USC is in one of those.
Oh, they're a popular team right now.
Oh gosh, man,
it's a trendy team right now. And that's important in the Heisman race, is being on a trendy team like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But I think one thing about USC, and the reason Lamar Jackson won it last year, like we said, he wasn't the best player on the best team.
Yeah.
He was the best player on a team where he had to do everything.
Yep.
And you got to look at some of these people. Baker Mayfield is going to be one. Like, they lost some talent, like you said, D.D. Westbrook.
Yeah.
And people like that who, like D.D. Westbrook was a Heisman candidate player last year.
Yeah, they had three guys that were.
And Baker Mayfield, I think, with Stoops being gone and it's kind of a new era at Oklahoma football, I think he's going to be asked to do a lot more this year than he was last year, which means he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, and we know he can run.
Yeah. Oh, he can. Yeah.
He can sling the ball around the field. He can run. He knows how to get yards.
Yeah.
So you got to look for him, because if, like I said, Oklahoma does make it pretty far in the season, and he has good games against the Oklahoma States, Ohio State's early, that's a huge game for he and Barrett's campaigns. I think Baker Mayfield's somebody to watch. JT Barrett's somebody to watch, because how long has he been playing? Like 7 years now?
JT Barrett?
Lord, yes.
Yeah, I feel like he's been with USC.
He's had like 6 medical red shirts.
Yeah, I feel like he's been there longer than. Yeah.
It's just
long time.
So you got to look at him because he knows college football now because he's like a 6th-year senior.
Yeah.
So those two guys are people to look at, and I mean Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
he proved that he can put up numbers, but like I said, he's got to beat his stats last year and everybody this year, and that's going to be almost impossible. So, anything you want to add to this college football little coverage?
I think that's it. That's all I have right now.
So, national champion, you got Alabama.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about it.
Alabama.
I mean, a lot of people agree with you.
I'm going to say Alabama wins their first game in the playoffs against Florida State. I think USC beats Penn State, and we get a Alabama-USC rematch.
All right. And
which would be an excellent game for Sam Darnold as well.
Yeah.
You know, if he wins the Heisman, then you come in looking like, you know, hopefully the best defense playing against the best quarterback.
Right. And I will also say Alabama winning it, and we'll just leave it at that, and we'll see how right we are. We'll go back, look at this, and maybe we'll look like geniuses. Maybe we'll look.
I probably won't, but
nah, you're gonna be fine. All right. Well, say bye to the people, Will.
Bye to the people, Will.
Jesus God.